Well, hello and welcome to the Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you cultivate a life you love. Now, today's show is going to be so interesting and, shedding some light on a form of healing that I think not many people really understand too much about. So, we're going to focus on quantum biofield healing. So it's energy healing. It's a form of energy work, and it's really quite fascinating because it can really help to align the mental, physical, and spiritual side of things. And obviously, we want to have optimal balance in all of those areas in order to be able to fulfill and live our best life. So I have my special guest today joining me, Marco Rosada, who is a quantum biofield healer. And I had the pleasure of visiting his clinic in Toronto and had a biofeedback healing session, which was amazing. So we're going to delve into what the process is and how it can actually help you to even build immunity and help to combat a lot of stressful situations like, of course, anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder and more. And of course, right now, I think the world, the global climate that we are in, many people are feeling a lot of stress and strain and pressure. So it is a wonderful modality that absolutely we are going to explore today. So Marco Rosada, it is such a pleasure to have you joining me here on the Mindset Mentor today.
Thank you. Thank you, Tania. Thank you for having me.
Well, listen, so great to have had a treatment. We'll get into that, but I want you to explain to everyone, if you can, for us, Marco, what exactly is biofield healing? What is it? Like, what is the human biofield? If you can explain that to everyone.
Absolutely. Well, this is part of the bioenergy and biomedicine, which is actually the new frontier of medicine. Probably we will get there entirely in a couple of centuries, probably.
Yeah.
And
but it's coming.
Yeah. Of course, because we still tended to heal the symptoms in the matter rather than the cause in the energy or in the bioenergy field. Every one of us has an energy field, and it's called the biofield. Every one of us, every plant, every animal, every living being has a biofield. We have a biofield that is made of two distinctive models. One is the most known one, which is the auric field or aura, which is where every single bit of information related to our health is recorded since our day one. And it communicates with our brain, with our immune system, and with the cells in our body through another models in the biofield that is made of subtle energy. Subtle energy is the star of the biofield because it's the cable that connects all our bodies, physical, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, and all the systems in our body, all the organs in our body, and every single cells in our body. It's called quantum because this subtle energy exists at a quantum level, meaning that it's subatomic. Our biofield is created, is generated by the spin of trillions of particles that we have in the body. When they spin in sync, all these particles, they generate a strong biofield. When there is desynchronization in between them, the biofield suffer. But we will go deeper into this later on. It's important to understand how our biofield connect and is responsible for the connection of our bodies, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual. This connection, for instance, between our mental and emotional body can lead to many mental and emotional condition or imbalances, or even I don't know, let's say a difficult mental and emotional communication can lead to a person to have low emotional intelligence. They do not understand people intelligent, do not understand emotions. And of course, many other problems.
So would that be one of the reasons why we may take something out of context or take it too personally? Could it actually be our biofield that is impacting how we respond to people?
Definitely. And this is caused, like every energy has a frequency range. And like every energy carries information. This is what connects our four bodies. The information. This is what is important, vital for us. That the information is coherent. Unfortunately, drops in this frequency occurs often and are correspondent usually to our mental, emotional, and physical trauma during our life. When one of these drops occur, the information that the energy is carrying may break and arrive to the organ recipient incoherently, which means that, for instance, the brain may not know that the liver is developing a condition. If this drop persists in time, this condition will develop freely.
And so if you didn't experience that drop, if it was working perfectly, that communication would be fluid and you would
exactly
have those
would be coherent. Coherent is the key. Coherent is the key. Where there is incoherence, there is health. Where there is incoherence, there is illness, any kind of illness. Yeah. So biofield healing works indirectly to the physical body by restore coherent information throughout the bodies and the organs in the physical body.
So, I mean, that's great. We're going to delve into, more specifically on, how to actually balance that and get that coherence through those areas. Of course, the physical, mental, spiritual, emotional aspect of things. Now, I'm interested. I'm thinking about, obviously situations that happen are going to, affect our biofield, right? Our, the trauma perhaps that we experience, just daily life and our environment. So how does our environment affect our biofield?
Well, the energy in the environment affects our biofield. Well, you probably have found yourself in a situation when you are in a room where there was a fight. You feel it, even if if the fight is ended, you can feel it for hours. Yeah. That energy, that feelings, is still there, and that affects your biofield. Your biofield is meant to vibrate at higher rates, but when you get into an environment of this type, your biofield lowered the vibrational rate and compromising also the communication throughout the overall communication of the body.
So
instead, when you, yeah.
No, go ahead.
Instead, when you are walking in a wood, you are completely immersed in nature, your biofield vibrates high because our biofield tend to match the vibrational frequency of that of the plants, which naturally vibrates at higher rates because they have to do a process of energy transmutation, the photosynthesis process.
Yeah, so I think we've all been in that situation where we know that feeling. It just feels good. It feels easy. It feels relaxed.
Exactly. Yes.
You know those environments where it doesn't feel good, and you almost want to cut the tension with a knife. You feel like it's
exactly
palatable, right? So how can we protect our biofield from experiencing a drop? If we know that we're going to be in a situation that potentially could cause that, how do we protect ourselves from that drop, or can we?
Yeah, we can, absolutely. Well, we cannot protect ourselves from environmental from drops caused by the environment, because we can get into a situation suddenly, then there's nothing we can do. I mean, but it's mostly about taking care of our emotional response. It's like, we can change our world around based on our emotional response and based on our perspective. So, for example, what can we use an example for this? If you have a feeling that the person that you are talking to it makes you uncomfortable, is because the two biofield, your biofield and the person of the other biofield, are exchanging a huge amount of information, because in that specific moment, those biofield are entangled, meaning they are communicating, like my biofield and your biofield too in this very moment.
Like on a subtle level, right?
Because we moved our awareness to each other, So in that moment, our biofield, independently by the distance and independently by the time, the two biofields start communicating. So you have the feeling that the person is a good person for you or not. But you can bump into a person that is not good for you, and there's nothing you can do about it, other than try to take care of your emotional response to that event. So if you don't pay much attention to that event, and you keep smiling throughout the day, and that's a good way to protect yourself.
I see. Or physically remove yourself sometimes, right? Maybe.
Yes, exactly. You remove yourself from that. You disentangle your biofield from that of the person that you don't like, that is not a good match with your biofield. And most of the time, I mean, you're done. But we have many tools, I mean, to keep our biofield vibrating high. I mean, meditation is one tool, and exercising gratitude is a huge tool, because we know that love and gratitude are the highest frequency that we can generate. When we generated this frequency, our biofield benefit immensely from it. But while love, most of the time, starts from the spiritual and the emotional body, and we have very little control over it, because or there is or there's not. But we have full control over gratitude, because it's born in our mental body. And when I'm talking about gratitude, it's not just gratitude for what you have for the love of your relatives, or your family, or your husband, your wife, your kids, but gratitude for those little things that usually we don't pay attention, that we happen during the day. And I can assure you that the smaller we go, the higher will be our enlightenment, and the more and our biofield will incredibly benefit from it.
That's incredible.
And it's something,
it's
something that I do every day before going to sleep. I advise with my client 5 minutes exercising gratitude, but not just with a cognitive process. We need to release that feeling. It's that feeling that matters. It's not thinking about it. When to the thought, we release the feeling, which is a consequence of this positive thought, then we heal our biofield.
Yeah, you actually want to get emotionally involved and feel that gratitude, and that brings up that sense of love.
Exactly.
And so, it's a great way to increase that vibrational.
Yes, and gratitude, we have complete control over gratitude, because it's just starts from our mental body, and it's the same type of frequency of love.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that we always have that choice. Every moment is a choice, so we have that control. And so those days where your day is not going the way you anticipated and you wanted it to, then yes, practice gratitude and change that energy. Or if you find yourself in a situation, surrounded with a group of people, or just, one other person, and you just feel like something doesn't feel right, and you're starting to feel that drop, you want to assess that. Do you want to stay? Is it necessary to stay in that environment, or can you physically, literally remove yourself from that environment, right?
Exactly.
I was having, I had a walk. This was a few weeks ago, actually. I found this so interesting. And I love people. I love to say hello to people, or just, acknowledge them as I'm walking by. And, if they respond, they respond. And if not, that's fine too. And, I don't always say hello, but I will acknowledge them by looking at them and a smile, right? So, and I remember I passed one person, and he wasn't directly beside me, but even from a distance, I just felt such a negative energy. And it was almost like, I don't like to be judgmental, but I just felt like it was almost an evil energy. It was not good. And as he passed, it was intense, and then it was over. Right. And I just had a really weird feeling, and I just thought, wow, so my biofield was not resonating with his biofield at all. So is that something that is normal?
It's exactly like that. What you did, you read the environmental energy. You read the subtle energy in the environment. This subtle energy is always contain information in that specific situation, contain the information of that person. That person wasn't resonating to you. And so you have a natural sense of repulsion. But
Wow, interesting.
you read your biofield, read the energy in the environment, and you have been able to make a sense of it.
Ah, yeah,
So
it's
this is
fascinating.
what people call instinct.
Hmm.
Instinct is, in my opinion, it's not scientific, actually, my opinion,
Yeah.
our capacity to read the environmental subtle energy, the information containing the energy that surrounds us.
Well, I think we all have the answers and we really know what serves us or
Yes.
what doesn't, right? If we actually do pay attention to that. Now, as far as the, the biofield itself, how does that exude from the body? Like, how far does the biofield, go?
Well, it depends. I mean, there are many theories, but we can measure just one part of the biofield,
Hmm.
which is the auric field, which is a system of electromagnetic fields. And probably it's going to be 3-4 feet from the body. But then it all depends. I mean, depends on the state of health of a person biofield. What we cannot measure so far is the subtle energy model of the biofield. So we still don't know. Technically, that's the interesting part of it, because while our auric field can expand from the physical body 3-4 feet, technically our biofield doesn't end, because it's made of subtle energy. This subtle energy do not respond neither to time nor to space dimension. So we exist, technically, we exist everywhere. And this is also the reason why a biofield healer can heal a person independently by the location.
That's
And
fascinating. Yeah, I'd love to talk more about that. We're going to take a break and we're going to come back and continue the
absolutely. Okay.
conversation on quantum biofield healing. Marco Rosada is joining me today. He is a quantum biofield healer, and we're getting a really good, lesson on what quantum healing actually is. We're going to start, I think, hearing a lot more about it.
Yeah.
So stay with us, and we'll be back after this break. Hello and welcome back to the Mindset Mentor on Sauga 960 AM. Hope you're having an absolutely phenomenal day. And today we're going to help you really to align the emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical aspect of the body through quantum biofield healing. So have you heard of that before? It's kind of interesting because I think that you will certainly be hearing a lot more about it into the future, becoming a little bit more mainstream science, of course, to back the idea of biofield healing and what that energy is in the sort of the quantum field. And every single person on the planet has a biofield. So I've brought my expert guest today, Marco Rosada, who is a quantum biofield healer. And before we took a break, we're talking about what it is, and I want to dive a little deeper, Marco, if we can. It's so great having you here, just to shed some
Thank
light on a very sort of unknown topic, I think, for a lot of people, right? Unless they're, of course, in that particular field. But I think it's something that everyone can benefit from, and certainly right now, as a lot of people on the planet are experiencing a collective anxiety and stress given the environment. I think it's important to look at different healing modalities. So let's go a little deeper into what the quantum biofield is, the human biofield.
Yes, absolutely. So quantum biofield healing goal is to heal a person biofield from all the drops in frequency that emotional and mental trauma may have created during the course of the life. These drops, again, cause the break of the information that the energy is carrying, so that some information may be hidden to organs and systems in the physical body. When this information is restored and become coherent in your physical body, the body automatically starts have a strong immune response and start to repair what needs to be repaired.
So now I've heard a lot of about, let's say, like mind and heart coherence, but when it comes to quantum biofield healing, is it coherence within the entire body, like all the organs?
Absolutely,
as well?
absolutely. Yeah, no, biofield is maybe one of the most holistic practice in energy medicine, because it doesn't consider just the single organ or a single system in your biofield. In the physical body, it's just considered the physical body, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual as a oneness.
So now I know that you've mentioned that it can help in terms of some of the, the traumas that are stored in the body, but what would be some of those traumas? Is it like, could it just be everyday stress that is accumulated that can cause some of those drops in our
Oh,
energy?
definitely. I mean, and stress causes a lot of damages inside the body, especially when it persists in time. Uh, what happened when we are stressed out what happened in the physical body is that the the sympathetic system take the place of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is when the healing body, the body is in a healing mode where when cells tend to self-repair themselves. And they're replaced with the sympathetic system, which trigger a mode called fight or flight. This mode is meant to stay there in the body for a few seconds, not more, meaning for us to fight a situation, a dangerous situation, or to flee from it. And say you're crossing the road and you see that the bus is hitting you, you want for your sympathetic system to be right away there and give and kick in, and you jump out and you jump off the dangerous situation. But after a few seconds, I mean, it has to be replaced by the parasympathetic system so that cells can self-repair after these traumatic events. And the problem is that, especially today, with the pandemic, a lot of people are reporting continuous stress, meaning that their body is continuously in this fight or flight mode. The fight or flight mode, what does is it flashes most of the energy available in the body into the muscles. And that is perfect for the scope of the fight or flight mode. But if it stays there for longer, all the other organs and systems inside the body keep living with really, really little energy. Then most all of them are underperforming. I mean, we became unfocused, mentally unclear, our digestion is difficult, the nervous system is overexcitated. So it makes our life miserable. And on top of that, our immune system is suffering a lot because of that and expose us to all bacteria and virus in the environment.
Yeah, you're more susceptible to, any sort of
exactly
at that point, right?
Exactly. And this is when incoherence happen. I mean, incoherence happen when there are these drop in the frequency that causes this physical situation. So what a biofield healing does is it restores the parasympathetic system to bring the body into a healing zone by repairing all the drops in the energy field, in the biofield, so that coherent information can be streamed around from organs and systems.
Yeah, and I think it's important to kind of do a self-assessment, really. I mean, we all, I think we're really good at knowing whether we are performing at our optimal best or if we're not. But if we're not, I think it's important to take some action to do what we can. Now, I'm curious as to how our sleep environment or our, sleep system, even the circadian rhythm affects the biofield, because obviously if we sleep enough, the body is healing and rejuvenating, repairing itself and helping to restore the immune system. And lack of sleep, on the other hand, is very detrimental to our day in terms of also the memory and the cognitive behavior and, feeling exhausted, overworked. You get, I think, a little overwhelmed easier. So does our sleep or the quality of sleep affect our biofield in any way?
No, it happens the other way around. It happens that the lack of sleep and how we feel, included our mood, is a reflection of the health of our biofield. When there is incoherency in our biofield, it reflects into the physical bodies in many ways. One of which is all these symptoms that you listed. It happens. It is exactly the other way around. Is incoherence in the biofield that affect the body, not vice versa. The body. If you consider the auric field as an hard drive, and the brain as a CPU, and the physical body as a screen where everything is manifested, the the auric, the subtle energy module of the biofield is what connects all of them. So when there is incoherence in a computer because cables are old or are broken, or there is a malfunction, there is a malfunction in all the other bodies. There is a malfunction in the computer, which is manifested on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, one affects the other, absolutely.
Exactly.
So it's really important to get the entire, biofield running optimally and
Yeah.
to align those drops. So now, if someone is experiencing a drop or drops, because there could be many, right? How do you balance that? And I'd love to talk a little bit as well about the difference between what a drop is versus what we would normally call sometimes a block. But I understand
Yeah.
for you, there's a difference. So, what is the difference between a drop and a block?
Well, in my opinion, the block, the way we know it in energy speaking, doesn't really exist because the energy always keeps moving. So there is not a block. Probably something. It's a word that gives the idea to people of what happened in the body, but there are no blockages. Blockages the block doesn't exist. It's just the energy in movement. It's just about drops in frequency, and and this is what some healers call blockages. And they can some healers can individuate or locate a drop inside the physical body and call that drop a blockage, but it's just a matter of wording.
Yeah, interesting.
And yes, and it's all about communication. Always, it's about communication. Wrong communication bring illness. Good communication bring meaningful and enlightened and healthy life.
Yeah, and that's what we all want to strive for, right? We want to cultivate
exactly.
and live our best life. We deserve to have that, right?
Yes.
And it's possible, and that's the beauty, is that it is possible. It's there, and you have that control to really start to, impact your own biofield, and then raise that energy if you are experiencing a drop. So how do we, assess where those drops are? And if you can, give us an example. And as I mentioned, I had the pleasure of having a quantum biofield healing done, with you, Marco. And, you did notice that I had some drops. So now, what's the process for you to, if you can explain that to everyone, to actually find those drops?
Well, it's not about finding those drops. Sometimes it's easy for me when I dive into a person biofield. I mean, when my biofield start communicating with other person biofield, it's easy for me to sense, perceive, feel those drops. But the way drops can be fixed are maybe more interesting than how do I feel them. Sure. So we have, biofield healers have two modalities to fix them. One is by funneling new and high vibrational subtle energy inside a person biofield. So this subtle energy, of course, is universally available. It's everywhere. It's literally everywhere. So by funneling this energy into a person biofield, as the vibration is very high, the drops tend to get fixed. And another technique is by the interaction of the two biofields, which is called entrainment in science. Entrainment is a word that we can find not just in energy medicine, but also in conventional medicine, in biology, in music. And is the principle for which two objects vibrating at a different rate tend to synchronize their frequency when they start exchanging energy. So when I start,
fork, right? Like if you have
yes, it is,
right, and they resonate at the same frequency.
Exactly. So it's not just about the huge amount of information that the two biofield streams. It's about the frequency that tend to raise. This is why it's very important for biofield healer to have their biofield very, very, very high, vibrating very high. It's because it's the responsibility. But biofield healers has tool to make this happen. And it has to happen all the time.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting to be able to to tap into that, right? And to be able to raise our frequency, no matter if you're actually a healer or not, right? Just the average
Yeah.
person to be able to raise that vibration. And it's really interesting because before, it's all about communication, right? But before you even have a verbal exchange, that communication is already happening, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so that's why we know that something feels good or something feels bad, or we know that what the person is about to say, it's not going to be great because you've already picked up on that subtle feeling, right?
Yes.
And that subtle
Yeah.
energy, right?
But it also depends on the vibrational rate of the person that are of the two person. I mean, do you remember we talked about that? No? So when maybe even well, everybody I think happened that they they met a person for the first time and had the feeling that they known the person forever.
Yes.
And the reason is because the biofield of a person has a frequency range. And if the other person biofield frequency range is matching those frequencies, there is such a huge amount of information exchange between the two biofield that both person probably has the feeling that they have known them forever.
Yeah, it's comfortable.
When,
It's that familiar, yeah. Mm-hmm.
then when a biofield range is of two, or when the range of two biofields are vibrating at these ranges where there is a void in here, there are no frequencies in common, then the communication is very difficult, even if they speak the same language. I mean, they just don't get each other.
Yeah.
When it happens like this, that's there is more coherence in between the two, that we have some frequencies in common, then the communication is difficult, but still possible.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting because two people could say the exact same thing, but it's like almost like you hear it differently, right? Because
exactly. This is what happened with couples all the time. This is the reason why I exist Biofield Healing for couples.
Okay. Listen, I'd love to talk more about the couple energy and how that could be helpful for people. We're going to take a break and we're going to be right back here on Sauga 960 AM. I'm Tania Kolar and you're listening to The Mindset Mentor. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Mindset Mentor. I'm Tania Kolar, helping you cultivate a life you love. Today, we are focusing the conversation on quantum biofield healing. So every single person has a biofield, right? So that's your energy, and you can, know sometimes that you have some drops in your energy in terms of how you feel, but there's also a way to increase that vibrational frequency. And my special guest today is Marco Rosada. Marco is a quantum biofield healer. He is also a co-founder of Biofield Medical. He has his own practice and clinic where he does, some beautiful healing techniques and modalities. And it's quite interesting because I think that we will start to hear, I think, a lot more about biofield healing, of course, backed by science as well. So really fascinating. Before we took a break, we were discussing relationships. And Marco, I'd love to just dive into that conversation because, it's so interesting how so many people, a relationship usually starts off wonderfully. Everyone's sort of, at their best, excited about a relationship. But then when you're in the relationship, then life happens and stress happens, or if it's a marriage and then kids come, or, whether it's marriage or not, all of these other factors come into the environment. And sometimes that relationship that seems so perfect and wonderful no longer feels perfect and wonderful. And there's strain and there's tension. And sometimes people, want to remove themselves out of that relationship. So how does biofield energy healing work with couples?
Well, before breaking up, it's better for everybody to take a biofield healing, because most of the time it's not about lack of love, it's about lack of communication. That's the real problem. I mean, if love is there, the communication, even the communication is what caused this problem. As communication is incoherence bring problems even in couple, because of the distance. It's a lack of synchronization between two-person biofield frequency range. So that brings the both biofield to have no frequencies in common, so that the communication is difficult. So what biofield healing does is to synchronize the two biofield frequency rate in order that more frequencies in common are established and there is a more fluent communication. So the couple has a window of time for them to find the best solution to their problem. But breaking up because of communication issue is absolutely crazy today.
Yeah, and I think we see that's very interesting because immediately we go to, oh no, the person doesn't love me anymore, or I don't love that person
Exactly.
because they
Yeah.
piss me off or they upset me or they're not hearing me,
Yeah.
right? So that communication is really important. It kind of reminds me of that there's a great book called The Five Languages of Love, and that's understanding someone's pattern and how they perceive being loved, right? Because we love people the way that we want to be loved, but we have to understand what their communication is around that. So what I found fascinating in this sense with relationships and that bioenergy, healing process for couples is that the communication exists. It's there in that human biofield, and it's just a matter of maybe realigning it. Does that make sense if I say that
Yeah.
word, like
Yeah. Yeah.
realigning the energy
Yes.
together so they're more coherent, I guess,
Yes.
matching each other? So that's very, very interesting concept, because I think, again, communication begins before we even say a word, right?
Exactly. Because communication starts way before, when the two biofields start communicating with themselves, and they also tend to match their frequency range, so that if you're speaking with a person, if you are forced to speak with a person that you don't like, or sure enough, your biofield frequency rate will have a drop, because they tend to align. It's the this kind of tendency of synchronized energy happen all the time. It's the example, even in science, sometimes I've heard the example of two people talking while they are on rocking chairs. They start rocking, and while they're talking, and after a few minutes, they tend to rock in sync.
In sync, yes, that's absolutely true.
And this is called entrainment. It's a process in which two objects vibrating at different rate tend to match their vibrational rate as they started exchanging energy. And energy is even before the communication. So if it doesn't, the synchronicity is the synchronization. If it doesn't happen in a moment, it will happen in the next seconds. So, but it will happen, and this is a tendency of the synchronization. It doesn't happen when the two biofields are frequency range are very distant in between other. Because when you have one of the two person in the couple can be more sensitive to the problem that they are going through, and the biofield drops much more than the other one, which make the communication even more difficult.
So if somebody has a higher, biofield, in terms of the energy, and they're operating at a higher level, can they, if they're not a healer, biofield healer, can they actually raise somebody's vibration intentionally?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, you can do intentionally. Well, I've studied and practiced this for years. I mean, before getting to the point where I am, but I do believe that everyone is potentially a healer. And we are healers, whether we want it or not. Whether we can heal, we can literally heal with a smile. It's a form of healing. Smiling to somebody, kissing somebody, hugging somebody. It's a huge form of healing. It doesn't go maybe as deep as a biofield healing session. That's okay, but it's still a form of healing for both people, not just for one. There is no giver and receiver. It's a two-way healing.
Interesting. And so I think that, if anyone is finding it really a challenge, in particular with one person, if you find that, you're having a challenge, it's absolutely worth it to, have perhaps a session to learn that maybe it's the biofield that is just out of sync, and you want to,
that's
get that
exactly
back.
Exactly. So when there are problems in between a couple, my advice is not to try to talk about guilt. Don't try to blame to blame each other, but understanding that the problem could be a little bit more technical than that. and it's independent from the will of one person and the other.
So that's fascinating. And obviously relationships are not just for, romantic relationships, but any
No.
relationship, right?
Yeah.
Friendships, sibling rivalry or what have you. So quite interesting. There is, let's say examples of, parents, right? Or one parent that has a relationship with their children. And one of those can be very strained, right? A little bit
Yes.
easier with one or two or three children, depending on how many you have. But one can be probably very problematic. I mean, I know for me as a teenager,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't resonate well at all with my mom. Not at all. There was a time
Tell me about
it
it.
was great. Yeah, right. So, but could that be just again that imbalance in the biofield at that time?
It plays a huge role in that. Yeah. There's also the teenager period is quite difficult mentally speaking, but the communication, when the communication is good, and I mean it's a whole another story. I mean, but it's not may not just be about communication, but communication plays a big role in that.
Yeah. And I think it's also kind of interesting too, because you'll see that sometimes teachers, right, they really know and they get a particular child and they know how to really help that child thrive, how to bring out the best in them. So would that also be a level of that maybe their energies in sync?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes. When you have a good connection with someone, yes, absolutely. Yeah, but it happens with literally with everyone. I mean, we know, we sense, we have the feeling whether or not that person is good for you, whether or not we can do something with the person, whether or not we can have a relationship, and to which level we can develop this relationship. All the information is inside us. We just need to learn how to read it.
Yeah, and even just, I guess, tapping into that intuition, the intuitive feeling. But as you say, there's some other, things that we can do, like practicing meditation, gratitude.
Practicing meditation, but practicing gratitude is the most important thing. Fill your house with plants, especially large leaves one, because the biofield is vibrating very high. So by entrainment, the more plant you have, the higher your biofield will vibrate. Every time you feel anxious or stressed out, whatever you're doing, stop doing it. And take 5 minutes. 5 minutes for a very simple meditation, or to keep your mind in the now moment, which is the main goal of meditation. That's the problem. When we get stressed out, is because we haven't managed our schedule very well, because it's very too tight. Or when we get anxious, most of the time is because our brain got into the future and brought back uncertainty. Yeah. This is why we become anxious. Yeah. So when this happens, in order to break the chain of thoughts, we have to stop. We have to stop and meditate. There is a simple meditation I mean to do. If you sit and you focus on the part of your body that touch the chair and the part of your body that touch the floor, the brain will keep focusing on one point to the other all the time, and will stay in the now moment. After doing this for 5 minutes, it's not long, and then go back to the thought that you had before, bring them up, and you will see that they are completely refrained. Yeah, because you've taken yourself and you've interrupted that pattern, right? You've taken yourself out of that environment where it was a little of that low vibration, right? It's interesting because, again, these are simple things that we can do. And again, it only takes 5 minutes. That's it. And even less. Yes. Even less. Even you made the example before when your day is really going south. I mean, you have this chain of the event that is one negative to the other. You just have to stop. Yes. Stop this, because it's you making happen all this. You are creating these events. So if you stop for a second and you meditate, I don't like that term. I mean, but it's just stay quiet, keep your brain in the now moment. Okay, break the the cognitive chain, the process, and your day is going to be different. Mm-hmm. It's because the brain is making your day that way.
That's right. So it's really just about, again, that, a new focus, right? What we choose to focus on is going to dictate our reality.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, this has been absolutely, extraordinary. And unfortunately, we are out of time. I wish we had more time, but I think it's wonderful to get a real deep insight into what Biofield healing is all about. So can you let the listeners know, Marco, how they can find you?
Oh, they can find me, on my website at biofieldmedical.com, or if they live in Toronto and the surrounding, they can come at Innate Wellness in High Park, Toronto, and we can have a healing in person. There is actually no difference between the in-person and the remote healing, because, as we said before, the subtle energy doesn't respond to space or time, so we can we can heal it, everybody, independently by the location.
Fascinating stuff. All right. Well, Marco, it's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thank you so much. Mentor. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, everyone, that is a wrap for today's show. And I hope that you continue to raise your energy level. Get that frequency.
I will, I promise.
High vibration. Yes. Fantastic. All right. Make sure to tune in next Tuesday at 1 p.m. for more of the Mindset Mentor. And remember, your mindset is like a muscle that needs to be strengthened and conditioned. So give it a good workout, right? You deserve it. So continue to work that out, and we'll see you next Tuesday.